wanted to print. Suppose I want to print ABC, then on the block of the wax I will emboss ABC. If I want the letters, numbers, that is 1 2 3 4, then I can write here 1 2 3 4. So on the block of wax, what we are doing, we are embossing the alphabets here, and this block of wax is basically acting as your cathode. Okay, and these ABC are basically our typing letters that we want to print. Then here this is our copper electrode. The same solution is chosen so that transfer of ion is facilitated. Then we have a copper solution. Okay, now just look what happens into the process. The first step, if you see here, the first step, that is the letters, you can see here, letters required to be printed are embossed on the block of wax as I have shown. The second point, after that what we are doing, you can see here in the diagram again that alphabets, letters are embossed. Okay, then I am spraying a graphite powder on this letter. Okay, I am spraying graphite powder on this letter. Then what will I do? Look at the third step. What does it say? The block wax is acting as a cathode, copper block is acting as a anode. If you see here in the diagram, okay, here is your copper block that is acting as your anode, here is a wax block that is acting as your cathode in the diagram. Then look at the fourth step. What happens when you are passing the current? Okay, look here, when you are passing the current, then what happens? This copper will get into the solution, and with the help of this solution it will go and get deposited on the letter embossed into the wax block. So that is the fourth step that is occurring. On passing current, letters of the copper gets deposited on the block of the wax. Okay, let us try to say what happens in the fifth. If you see here, the fifth point, this block is kept. Okay, this block, which block? That is the block of the wax, is finally capped on the tin sheet and heated to remove wax and graphite, which gives a fine block of copper required for the printing. So finally we get our printing block. Now you see the process that was involved as discussed earlier. What is electroplating? What is electrolysis? So here electrotyping is basically based on the principle of the electrolysis. Okay, so that one has to remember. Now let us try to move ahead. Ionic equilibrium constant, that plays a very important role. If you see here how this ionic equilibrium derivations are derived, one has to see all the cases. Look here, ionic equilibrium constant for the water, that is Kw for the water. Let us try to derive how it comes. We have a equilibrium constant of the water, that is Ke, that will be basically expressed as concentration of the product. Okay, if you see H3O plus is a product, so that's concentration of product, that is multiplied with the another product, that is OH minus, that is divided by water, that is concentration of the reactants. Concentration of product divided by concentration of reactants, that is going to give you equilibrium constant of the water. Now what happens? Number of moles, okay, that are present in 1 liter of the water, that can be given as 1000 upon 18. Okay, so this 1000 upon 18 basically gives you the number of moles. From where this 18 comes? It is basically coming to be the molecular weight of the water, that is calculated as 18. So when you are dividing 1000 by 18, you ultimately end up with the moles of 55.5 molar concentrations. Okay, so this value has to be substituted in this equation in the next step. Just look here what we are doing. Ke is again multiplied in, as you are having the cross multiplication. Simply you have calculated moles of the water, that is turned out to be 55.5. So you can see here cross multiplication Ke, okay, into 55.5, which is equal to H3O plus into OH minus concentration. Now you can write here Ke into 55.5 as your ionic equilibrium constant for the water, that is Kw, which is equal to H plus and OH minus concentration. Now value of this Kw at 25 degrees Celsius that was confirmed experimentally is equal to 1 into 10 to the power minus 14. Then always one has to keep in mind. So with the help of this data we can calculate the numericals based on the pH, and also we can derive so many things by the data. Let us try to just recall this thing. You have the ionic equilibrium constant of the water. First we will write the reaction. H2O plus H2O, that is going to give H3O plus OH minus. Then you can find out equilibrium constant C equal to Ke equal to product of the, you can see concentration of the products, that is H3O plus concentration multiplied by OH minus concentration divided by concentration of our reactant, that is water. Okay, and number of moles of water per liter is equal to 1000 divided by 18. 18 is the molecular weight of water. We have calculated, that turns out to be 55.5, and from that we can see here, this we can cross multiply the things here. So H2O moles we have calculated 55.5, so we can write down Ke into 55.5 in the next step, that you can see here very clearly, that is Ke into 55.5 equal to H3O plus into OH minus. Kw is equal to H plus and OH minus. Value of Kw experimentally confirmed at 25 degrees Celsius turns out to be 1 into 10 to the power minus 14. Okay, so this covers our ionic equilibrium constant or Kw for the water. Let us try to move ahead and derive the derivations for the pH and the pOH, which are very important because this pH and pOH value will give us the idea about the ionic equilibrium constants, and so many concepts are interrelated. Let us study that also. Look here, we can see very clearly here the first step, that is deriving of the, you can see the sum here, derive pH plus pOH equal to 14. Now what happens, we will try to recollect the earlier derived data that we have seen, that is Kw, that was ionic equilibrium constant for the water, was found out to be 1 into 10 to the power minus 14, and that was basically the product of concentration of H3O plus and OH minus. Okay, now what you can do here, you can take a log on both the sides. If you take log, what will happen? This product basically, that is multiplication, becomes addition. Okay, so I can write here log of H3O plus log of OH minus is equal to minus 14 log 10. If I take log on both the sides, right hand side as well as left hand side, then I will end up with this particular sentence. Now you know log 10 is basically 1. So what will happen? I can write here log of H3O plus log of OH minus is equal to minus 14. Okay, now what will I do? I will multiply this side as well as this side with minus 1. Okay, I will multiply it. Now what will I get after multiplication? Let us try to see that. See here, I will multiply it minus 1. So minus 1 log of H3O plus minus log of OH minus, which is equal to plus 14. Okay, minus 14 into minus 1 is going to become plus 14 here. This is my equation 1. Now we will try to recollect the earlier information that was taught in the slides, that was pH equal to negative logarithm of concentration of H3O plus ions expressed in moles per liter to the base 10, and pOH is given as negative logarithm of concentration of OH minus ions expressed in moles per liter to the base 10. Now these two information we will try to implement two data into our equation 1. So what we have done is we will put the value of equation 2 in equation 1. What happens? Now can I substitute this minus log of H3O plus with pH? Okay, so I have written here pH. Can I put minus log of OH minus as a pOH? So I will write here pOH, and this 14 remains as it is. So finally we have derived the derivation of pH plus POH equal to 14. Okay, this one has to remember while concluding. What was the first step? We have seen in the first step that we have taken up the ionic equilibrium constant of the water, that is the concentration multiplication H3O plus and OH minus. That value experimentally found was 1 into 10 to the power minus 14. Then we have simply taken logs on the both the sides. After taking log, what will we get? Log of this plus log of this minus 14 log 10. Okay, log 10 is 1, so we will get here minus 14. Now simply I multiply all these sides with the help of minus 1. So what will I get finally here? When I multiply with the minus 1, I am going to get this minus log of H3O plus minus log of OH minus equal to 14. So if you see here, we are aware pH equal to minus log of H3O plus and POH equal to minus log of OH minus. And if I put this two value of equation 2 in equation 1, then I am going to get pH plus POH equal to 40. Let us try to understand ahead certain physical properties that we were taken up in the slide, and we'll look here what are the physical properties that are basically playing important role in the conductivity. Okay, so when we are discussing the conductivity, then we have to relate so many things together. Ohm's law, we have discussed the things. What is Ohm's law? Specific conductivity, specific resistance, equivalent conductance and equivalent resistance, all the things we will be taking up today itself. Okay, that we have seen here. The strength of the current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to potential difference applied across the conductor and inversely proportional to resistance of the conductor, that is I equal to E upon R. E is the potential difference, then you have R is the resistance and I is the current strength. Then you can see here the second is resistance. How you can see the resistance of the conductor? You know that resistance is basically directly related to the length of the conductor divided by area of cross section of the conductor. Suppose if I write as R varies as L upon A, if I want to remove proportionality sign, what will I do? I will put the constant, that is rho. Okay, this rho is a constant that depends basically on the material that you are choosing. Okay, it depends on the nature of the material. This L is the length of conductor, A is area of cross section. That one has to remember. Now looking ahead, okay, you can relate resistance, Ohm's law, and now you can take up another specific resistance concept with the help of this law. What is specific resistance? Let us try to first understand it. Resistance of uniform column of material having length 1 centimeter and area of cross section 1 centimeter square. Okay, this is called specific resistance. We have seen earlier that R varies as L upon A, that is your resistance is proportional to length of the conductor divided by your area of the cross section. Okay, if I want to remove that variation, we have seen we have kept a constant, that is rho. Okay, now see, I have kept rho. What I can do here now, I want to find out specific resistance unit. So what will I do? I will try to multiply, cross multiply here. So A R, okay, goes here and L comes down. So A R upon L is the next step. Okay, now look here, your area is basically having the unit of centimeter square. Okay, R is the resistance, okay, that is having the unit of the ohm. So I have written centimeter square into ohm over here by multiplying two terms. Below is the length of the conductor. So that is expressed in the unit centimeter. 1 centimeter is going to get cancelled, and finally will end up with the centimeter dot ohm. So unit of the specific resistance is centimeter dot ohm, that is the specific resistance. This comes by this method. Okay, that one has to remember. That's all for today. We'll continue in the next session. Thank you so much.